All right. Hello, hello, hello. How are we feeling tonight, ladies? Everybody doing good? All right.
Feeling great.
Yay.
I'm gonna mute.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm diving in and I'm going to try to somewhat quickly give you a really strong overview of what the memoir method is, how it works, and leave like the ending open for any questions. Okay, so let's go ahead. I, as you know, have this beautiful background story of how I found memoir. I just wanted to be a writer. I was just trying to follow my heart. Everybody was telling me, what to do, who to be, how to act. I had been married and had 3 kids before I had the big epiphany that I was living someone else's life and not doing actually what I wanted to do. And I actually didn't even know what that was or who I was. And so when I started going to college, I was only going to college, honestly, because I had a GI Bill that had paid me to go because from my time in the military, and I had all of this pressure from everyone else, like, why don't you get a degree, why don't you get a job? And I just felt like all of this pressure that I was supposed to just follow in line, right? The things that you're supposed to do. You're supposed to get married, you're supposed to have kids, you're supposed to have a good job, you're supposed to have success. And I just was trying to do what society and everybody else wanted me to do. But then I get into school, and the first thing I'm like, well, I don't know what to do. I have no idea who I am or what I like, right? So I'm just going to figure it out. And at first I was like, I'll get a degree in traffic management because that's what I did in school. I hated that. Or I mean in the military. And I was like, well, I really hated that. And I was like, well, maybe a business management degree. That's smart, being practical, and I was like, oh, this is awful. and then and then I'm finally like, you know what? I'm just gonna get my prerequisites. And so I changed it up again and was gonna get a liberal arts degree. And I just kind of chose that just as like a placeholder so that I could just get some prerequisites in. I could take the classes I had to take no matter which degree I needed and just kind of figure it out as I go. It just naturally felt like that was the right thing to do. And it ended up being exactly what I needed to do because those first prerequisites that I took were English classes and psychology and religion and things like that, that history, that I was like, wow, I actually really do love this stuff. I love this stuff. And of course, that my heart had always been in, I was the creative, I was in the creative writing classes all through high school. I was the editor in chief of our creative writing journal in high school. I'd always been a writer. I had always been a poet, and I had been writing like I had 80,000 words of a fantasy novel written before I even went to college. So writing just, and finally there was something in me that just dug in and got really stubborn and was like, no, I'm going to get an English degree. Even though everybody else was like, well, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to be a teacher? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Practical, practical, practical. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just getting an English degree and I want to be a writer. F off and leave me alone. All I wanted to be at the time was a mother. I just wanted people to finally get off my back. And so I just started taking the classes that brought me joy, which was literature and English. And then I found out I could get a creative writing minor, and I could get a publishing minor and an art minor, and I could do all of these fun things that I liked and was gradually learning the things I liked. Which at 30, I was 30 when I started doing this, right? Early or late 20s, but 30 when I got serious about it. all of a sudden it was at my this midlife kind of stage where that's when I started asking myself what I liked. I had never asked myself those questions before, and it felt like such an epiphany, and it was. And it just so happened that when you're getting a minor in creative writing, you have to take a creative nonfiction class. And creative nonfiction, I don't want to do that. Like I was writing fantasy novels, I was writing poetry, I was writing children's books. And then I got put in this class where I had to pick a creative nonfiction genre, which I was immediately blown away by. I was like, oh wow, okay, it's not just textbooks and history books, it's not just journalism. And so I picked memoir because I was like, oh, I journal every day. It won't be that much different than that, probably. It sounded like the easy way out. It wasn't the easy way out at all. And my professor was pushing me to write this really good memoir. And she she had seen my work, she knew my writing, and she kept constantly telling me, because I was always saying, well, I want to be a writer. She's like, you are a writer. You don't want to be, you already are. And that was all, that in itself was like, oh, like it was like this identity that I couldn't quite take a hold of because my self-esteem was not capable of that yet. And so I, dove in to this practice and was just following along with the assignments given to me. And I wrote all of these different memoirs for this class that one after the other radically blew my mind, shifted my perspective, changed the way I saw myself, the world, the situations that I was writing about. I was so just honestly like blown away by what I was learning. And at the same time, right, I'm taking all of these classes in psychology and childhood development and understanding human nature, sociology, all of those things. And it started clicking, right? Like I'm not just learning about myself, but I'm learning about the human psyche. I'm learning about human development. I'm learning about the way our nervous systems work all at the same time. And so my dissertation was all about this kind of combination between self-help, self-development, personal growth, and memoir. So I was taking everything that I had learned from my mother, because my mom read 500 plus self-help books and was constantly telling me about Tony Robbins and you know what I mean? All of the, she was watching Oprah Winfrey my entire childhood and had been saying all of these things. And so all of that was spinning around with a memoir, and I was really realizing how intertwined they are. So it became this understanding that personal development, the growth mindset, memoir, it already was starting to bloom in me that it was a tool. And when I was going to get a divorce, I didn't trust myself to make good decisions. And I used memoir as a way to help me make that better decision. I needed to know, like, am I messing up here? Am I gonna regret this? Is this the worst thing I've ever done in my life? How could I possibly leave my marriage? How could I possibly do this thing? And I got clarity, and I got the confidence that I needed to make a decision for myself, not somebody else make the decision for me, right? So my parents had made my decisions for me, and then the military had made all my decisions for me, and then my husband had made all my decisions for me. So who was I to actually make a decision for myself? And so I needed to learn how to trust myself, and I needed to learn how I lost that confidence in myself in the first place, how I lost my self-esteem, how I got to a place that I felt so unworthy when it didn't make sense with what was just kind of swirling in my mind. I'd done a little therapy, I'd read the books, but nothing really made sense to me until I put it on the paper in this way. And then it just bloomed and bloomed and bloomed from there, right? And 700 hours of trauma informed yoga teacher training and multiple certifications and shadow work and all of the other things that I had been diving into created the memoir method. And here I am, literally sharing with the world the truth of my own heart and life that I truly believe has been divinely downloaded into my system, into my being, into my core, so that I can shine it out into the world. And so that is what we're going over tonight, and so there's a problem here, right? The problem is that the mass majority of people in the world are disconnected from themselves, and they are looking constantly out at everyone else, right? We have social media, we have our families and friendships, and we're constantly looking everywhere else other than at ourselves. And then even when we are examining the self, the major things that we use are journaling and therapy, typically, right? And then even if we get into meditation and things like that. But journaling, it processes things in circles. There's no real straightforward craft outside of like pinpointing like gratitude and things like that. You're just you end up, if you're not careful, dwelling and adding into the energy of what it is you're feeling. And that can end up just feeding itself. And that's what I had been doing for most of my life. And then therapy, much more helpful, right? And if you combine therapy and journaling, you're getting somewhere. But you're healing without that true narrative container. You're getting some of the narrative because the therapist knows to ask you specific questions about your childhood, about the way that you think and feel about yourself, why, asking you to journal on those specific questions. And that is very helpful. And most of the time you can do a lot of your shadow work in that container with your therapist. But then you're left with an understanding of the program and yet no way to properly change that behavior and that programming. And even after I did my memoir writing, I sat back and I said, well, okay, now I know I'm programmed, but that's not stopping the program from running. The program is still working, and I needed to find a way to change the behaviors, to shift the narrative. And that's why this is a holistic program that has nervous system regulation, that has somatic movement and release, that has a way to properly not only take you into the awareness work, but then into the integration and the living in alignment with more integrity with the truth of yourself that you are just lovingly, gradually excavating and moving forward with. So, and then there's also, and I ask, people ask me all the time, they just want to write their memoir. And I say, well, I don't just write memoir. This is not just traditional memoir. There's, the craft of memoir writing without the shadow work, without that holistic approach. I've seen it time and time again. I have so many friends, they did it. They wrote their books and they are more traumatized than they were when they started because they just ended up reliving their traumas without knowing what to do with it. And they just dumped into their victimhood and almost gave more power to it. And so when I saw that, I said, there has to be a different way. And I noticed the different way in myself. And it was because I had all these other tools coming forward to me. I was learning about reparenting. I was learning the psychology. I was learning the trauma informed care. I was learning all of the other things that I needed to really move forward and move through that memoir, that story, in a way that helped me truly process, release, change the programming, take the pen from that from the past and become the narrator of my life, past, present, and future. And here I am doing it, showing anybody who comes to see exactly what it looks like, because I live it every day. I show up with this as the pen is my sword, right? And so I want to kind of dive in just to an overview of the framework of what it all looks like. So there are 5 acts, and it's kind of like this journey that you're going to go on. You're going to take this journey forward, and I have it all laid out in the table of contents within the Mighty Networks program. Oh, my computer just went on like night mode. I was like, oh, everything changed color. So everything is set in a way that you do one and then the other, and it's set up in a way that, to the best of my understanding, at this point, right? Because like I said, I'm learning and growing and doing and pushing forward as a human, as a woman, in the best way that I know that I can in this moment. And so this is what I can see and feel in my heart with my process of what I have learned thus far in my life, of how this is the best way to make this work. So if you're in the Kim Circle membership, you can understand that the Kim Circle, the Kim in itself, represents sanctuary. It is a Gaelic word that is a symbol for unconditional love and protection. This is a place where you can allow yourself to be seen and heard in your truth, where you're not going to be judged, where you can let down your guard. We are not here to be anyone other than ourselves. I am not sitting here and pretending that I'm perfect. I am not sitting here and saying, yep, I got it all figured out. No, I am sitting here as a woman who has moved through some major shit in her life and wants to share what I have learned thus far, how I am learning and growing. You are going to see me as someone who shows up every day, and I will share my troubles. I will share my woes, and you will see that I am choosing love over fear, right? And that's ultimately what it comes down to. But all of that to say, I have also taken the Kim, the word itself, and broken it down. CAIM. Connection to self-source and sanctuary, awareness of our program, of our patterning, right? Who are we? What are we? This is where we do the shadow work. I for integration into the future, into the present day, and the living of the life in the daily, right? Because we have to take this information and we have to move forward with it. And then M, manifestation, mastery, momentum, magic. Like, this is how we build the life of our dreams, right? This is how we build new energy, and we vibrate higher, and we call in and become the magnet that we know that we have the worthiness of. And we gain that worthiness all along. We gain the worthiness from that connection. We gain the worthiness from that awareness. We gain the worthiness because when we integrate with integrity, we build self-trust and we start to truly love ourselves, right? So I took that same essential framework and I brought it into the memoir method, but went just a little bit deeper, right? And in a little bit a different way because I'm I also want this to potentially be something that helps you if you want to publish your own book. You can just take this and you can make a Substack with it. You can make a ebook with it. You can make a full book with it, multiple books if you wanted to. Or you can write it out and put it in a drawer. You can burn it during a ceremony, whatever is right for you. But the work does the same thing no matter whether it is something just for you or something you use in your future to inspire others with. It is your choice. It is your story. You are worthy of that story and you use that story accordingly. So to say that, I have taken this and put it into 5 acts. Act 1 is essentially the Kim. It is the container. It is where you go in and you look at your sense of safety. Before you even start this work, you need to be able to lay a foundation, right? You need to be able to feel really solid and good about your ability to get through it, right? And so we create that sacred container. And then we learn some of the most foundational, fundamental parts of what we need to understand, what I wish I would have understood before I even dove in. So, for example, the module 2 is called The Body Keeps the Score. It's all about how the body stores memory in our fascia, how we need to actually move the body throughout this process. You're going to learn that your story is not your enemy, that this isn't about being the victim. This isn't about fighting against this horrible thing from your past. It's about turning that into power. We need that context to start, right? And then I dive deep into there's the 3 positions, the child, the adult, and the witness that you'll learn all about. You'll be learning all about reparenting, what it means to reparent. And from that, then you move forward into Act 2. Act 2 is excavation. This is when we really start writing. By this point, you are already writing. You are already digging in. But this is where we develop our ability to write in the right way, right? The things that I learned that made my memoirs good memoirs, right? The things that my professors were telling me and helping me move through to deepen into my story and not make it a journal entry, right? So we're going to be looking at scene setting, at character work. We're going to be looking at what we're avoiding in the scene, how to break free of that. We're going to look at the art of the interview. We're going to look at the art of dialogue and how to bring all of those things alive and actually make this good writing. Like, you don't have to be a good writer to do this. You don't have to be a writer at all to do this, but you will still feel so proud of what you are able to create because you're going to get the information you need to build a truly beautiful story that has scene and setting and a proper plot and character description and sensory detail and all of those things. So we'll be diving deep into that in Act 2. And then in Act 3 is illumination. And in illumination, we will go even deeper into a blend of bringing the story to life in a new way, but also a deeper look into the shadow self. So we're going to be looking at the inner child, ancestral patterns, your shadow self, and what it means to forgive. And we're going to be looking at forgiveness because this is a big part of this, because you're going to be asked to forgive yourself and to potentially forgive others as an act of self love. And so you'll see more about all of that in Act 3. Act 4 is integration. Once again, we're going to be looking at not integration as a form of like showing up with integrity, though that is here, but more so we're going to be looking at structure. Like, what is the arc of your memoir, right? What is the central theme that you are looking for? How do you build like, say you do want a full manuscript, it can get very confusing, and a lot of people want to start with an outline, and we're not really doing that, and we're not doing that by design. But in this section, that's when you are going to start building out the memoir's arc, the structure. And then we'll be looking at your voice. We'll be digging deeper to find and clarify your voice as part of a little more of part of that editing, and noticing where it's your voice or not your voice. And then we go into editing, we go into creating ritual and living that writing life. And then the 5th act is legacy. Legacy is where we look at whether or not you want to publish this or not, what your publishing avenues are, how to do that, how to even go about that process. It's going to share all of your different options. And then we'll have like a beautiful closing ceremony and an option for a forward path. In here, there's also a chat so that you can dive in with questions when you need it. There's a booking link to book a call with me when you get to a point where you know you need extra coaching, where you know you need that editing advice, anything like that. If you feel stuck, I will be there. But beyond those 5 acts with those 20 modules in them, there are some extra bonuses that I have added in. Some of those bonuses are actual practices to help you with your nervous system and nervous system regulation, somatic movement, and even a section around internal family systems, so that you can learn how to look at your parts and see how they're coming out in your story and on the page. It's powerful, beautiful stuff, and it really bridges the writing to the body, and we need that. And that's what makes this so beautiful and such a comprehensive program. Okay, so I'm trying to kind of think of what else. If you decide to join the Kim Circle membership, right, you get access to more and more and more of that, right? You have access to the full-blown community. You have access to all of the yoga flows, the meditations, everything that comes with the Kim Circle framework that is already there for you. So you can be a part of that during this. That can be your follow-up, whatever it is that you decide to do. Ultimately, my goal is for you to walk away from this truly, deeply transformed. And I will have to say, like, just creating this has transformed me. It has taken me and leveled me up in a way that I wasn't even aware in any way that would happen. I feel stronger and more confident in myself than I ever have before. I feel truly rooted and enriched and leveled up in a way that I just was not expecting. And if it's doing that for me, just putting it together, I know that anyone who goes through this course is going to come out on the other side brand freaking new and feeling so empowered and so alive and so lit up and so ready to take on their dreams because they're going to know who they are. They're going to know what they want. Those big questions that had riddled me in the beginning, I can't tell you what it means to get to a point that you not only know who you are, know what you want, but have the confidence and the belief in yourself and the trust in yourself, the love to actually do it, to have the conviction, true, deep rooted conviction that is unshakable, where the limit does not exist, where there is just nothing but that, because who else in the world could you possibly be other than yourself? And you're going to love yourself. And that's what this world needs. This world needs you just as you are. At your with your most special, beautiful, wonderful gifts shining out of you like a beacon that warms everyone around you. And I know what it's like to do that. And I don't have words to express the the way it makes you feel when your wholeness is received on that level. It has made me a better friend, a better daughter, a better mother. It has completely, radically, fully changed my life for the better. And that I could not do anything else in this world. What could I possibly do else in this world other than to share that medicine? And that's what this is. This is memoir as medicine. The memoir method. So obviously I'm very proud of it. I'm very excited about it. Do you have any questions?
Oh, sorry, I just like popped off there. I hit something on here thinking I was like turning it up and I guess
Oh, you're fine.
yeah, I guess when you hit the middle button, it ends the call. Didn't know that.
No worries at all.
Well, that
I'm
was
actually,
lovely.
do you guys have any specific questions that are just like, like if somebody else were to come into this and they're just like, what do I need to know? What would be missing for you here?
I mean, honestly, you really like you went over the whole thing wonderfully. I think, yeah, I think that I don't know if questions came up for me just as I was thinking about it was because for me, therapy has never seemed like a tool that was going to be good for. I just never liked it. Like
Yeah.
I had opportunities to use it, and I just never wanted to use it. And there's all this pressure to go into therapy. Like, oh, if you're not in therapy, you're not working on yourself, and all this. And I always felt like there was another way
Mm,
to dive in and this is it. This is the way. So it's like how you're marketing it. I want to make sure that not combat therapy, because nobody wants to do that, because it's
no.
not it's not a combat to therapy, but it's
Yeah.
options. Again, we're women of options. We love our options. And as somebody who doesn't want to do therapy, this is very exciting for me to be able to work through and feel like I'm going to heal from things
Mhm.
without, you know, putting all that into
And I
something.
will
Yeah.
say, I have so many friends that are therapists. Meg
Mm-hmm.
is a therapist.
Technically,
And
yes. Yeah.
she's taking the memoir method. She's been a
Hmm.
memoir client of mine for a year.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, I mean,
That's definitely something to touch
therapists,
on.
I have therapist clients.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, I have therapists that are wanting to bring this method into their work.
Yeah.
That's how I know
Yeah.
I'm not just onto something, I truly have something.
Yeah,
yeah.
100%. Like this is amazing. Cool. Also, the other word is just witnessed. You know, I told you my obsession with with Zach Bush, and
Hmm.
he one time said something about, like being loved, or like love is literally just the act of being witnessed. And
Hmm.
it's this whole method is also just a way of that. Like
Oh
you're
yeah,
witnessing yourself,
yeah,
you're witnessing others by being able to read it, help them through it. The program is a witness, so it's that aspect of it too that I thought was cool. But questions, not really any questions. They might come up as I'm doing it, but I don't
yeah.
really have any questions.
Literally,
Or
the
I guess like
word witness
how.
comes up so many times in this program.
Yeah, see, yes, I love it. But I guess, does it say in the program like how you write? Like you can write it in Google Docs, you can write, like, does it matter, or does it? So that's
No,
okay. Yeah.
no. I mean, in the very beginning, you do, like you're setting your sacred container, and part of that is having a space for yourself where you can
Hmm.
feel capable of doing the writing. I was blessed to have, quiet spaces.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have found that there were times that I needed freehand, but the mass majority of the time I typed
Typed. Yeah.
everything, because once you start going you need to type fast because it
Hmm.
it comes quickly.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I
Cool.
wouldn't say I have specifically a question, but I know that one thing I thought of is just like feeling like I'm not writing enough. Like,
Mm.
Mm. I love that question actually, and I
okay,
think
because
that
that's,
that's
I didn't know if it was a question more so like,
no, I think, but that's a worry, right?
mhm,
That can
Yeah.
be framed as a question for sure. So here's the thing. This is going to ask you to deepen, right?
mhm,
And if you're in Act One, Alexis, you haven't gotten to Act Two. And
mhm,
Act Two is when you're prompted to dig, right?
Hmm.
And this isn't about like, oh, I'm going to, 80,000 words of whatever, right?
mhm.
It's not about length so much as it about fleshing out the truth,
Do you
right?
put
And
that in there? Is that
yes.
okay? Yeah. I mean, I feel again, I feel like you cover all the bases, but
Right.
I was say that is
Well, that's why
something
I
I
was like,
think
I
would
don't know
be
if
good to
it's
be in there.
necessarily a question because I was just like looking at Act One. I was like, oh my God, what if I like go through all these and I can't write as much
Hmm.
as I would want to? But that's why I was like, is there?
Yeah, and I will say, well, and the other thing that I need to say about this is the gift that keeps on giving. It's not like you're going to do it once and be done.
Yeah.
Mm,
I have been doing these. I have been writing these memoirs since 2015.
Yeah.
I mean, my money story, my mother's story, my dad's story, my grandmother's story, my body and love story, my marriage story.
mm,
It just goes and goes and goes, and that's why I've built it the way I have, because it could be a series of essays, and that's how it's been for me, right? My book is 3 essays.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
or it could be my Substacks. Each one
mhm,
of those little Substacks is a memoir essay, right?
True.
And they're short. Or it can be the
mm,
full blown, and it's not autobiography. Autobiography is like, here's your life,
Oh, I
right?
just
Full
read
blown.
that actually. I would just read your Substack of
Yes.
your autobiography, and
And then Memoir is theme based usually, and it also dives into that and to a little bit more understanding of what memoir is and your options for choosing how, right? That's in kind of the structures segment where we're talking about like, okay, is this a frame narrative? Is this a braided narrative? Is this right? And you can actually use those to think, okay, well, what if, for example, you're looking at your ancestral patterns? I did this, and I was looking at my grandfather's relationship with money and how it mirrored my relationship with money, and how I was kind of going back and forth between those two things, and that's a braided narrative. So you're going to
Hmm.
learn all about all of those things. And
Cool.
so this is meant to be something that can be used over and over and over. This is a lifetime journey
Yeah.
and an adventure of self-discovery,
Mm.
because you're not going to
Hmm.
stop living, right? We hope.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? And so along the way, as you deepen, right, you're going to uncover new layers of things that are confusing, that you're unsure of. And any time that I don't really trust my decision around something, I know exactly what I need to write about,
Yeah.
right? In my
Mm.
current relationship, I'm confused. So guess what
Yep.
I'm telling the story of?
Yep.
I'm getting the clarity that I need to better understand why I feel the way I feel so that I can move forward with that confidence. We want clarity to get confidence so that we can feel peace.
Yeah. Cool.
I have another question, sorry, because it just popped
Mm.
to my head. As you're going through these acts and modules, should you be writing them like separated? Like if I'm in module one, I write everything from module one. Once I go into
Oh, that's a really good
module
question.
two, do I write like module two and then put,
Mhm.
whatever
I
on
would
it?
keep them in separate documents, yes.
Okay.
Unless you know that they immediately link, and you'll know.
Okay.
Hmm.
You'll know because it's going to ask you to look at different stories. And you may end up being like, oh, okay, well, this is making me think I need to dig deeper into this one. I was
Okay.
writing about that time when I was 7 and da 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 da. Or I was writing about that theme of, say, for example, you're looking at your relationship with alcohol, for,
Hmm.
just as an example, right? And the memory that pops up around, you know, let's say ancestral patterns. And then you're like, oh yeah, my grandfather was a big drinker too. And, or, my, they were teetotalers and they wouldn't do anything. And that's, you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
you'll see for yourself how things are going to tie together, and you may want to chunk those pieces together. Or I think one of, with my memoir writing clients, when I have one-on-one clients, we create folders, right?
Hmm.
And we section things out in a folder so you have multiple pieces in a folder. So you can call it the memoir method folder, and then you could do a module one, a module two, a module three, etc., 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 to keep things more organized. And then at the end, you'll be able to go into like the structure module in module 13 and be able to see, oh, okay, I'm like I said, I have this frame narrative happening, or I have more of this thematic circular narrative happening. I'm going to combine these. And like I said,
Hmm.
when you have questions, when you need the support, guess who's here?
Hmm.
Love it. Ladies, I do have to go. I promised Grandma we'd finish a show tonight. It's
Okay.
getting late,
Yes,
but
thank you guys so much. I am going
thank
to
you.